Okay, so we're going to build our table. The table design itself is pretty easy, and I'm going to tilt this down a little and see if I can get you guys so you can see it. There we go. Aha, the table. Okay, the table design itself is pretty easy. I'm going to unplug this. What I've got is this is a piece of countertop. What I like about it is it's got a nice smooth surface, so you don't worry about things getting hung. You can use other materials. Any laminated material really works well for it because you don't want something that's going to be rough and it's going to snag your pieces. A few of the designs I've seen out there use, like the hardboard masonite stuff, and this stuff works if you can get a nice smooth piece. The one problem with it is over time it does absorb some moisture, and it picked up a little bit of roughness to it that can snag your pieces. With this, you don't worry about it. It just stays nice and smooth and you don't really have to worry about it. The other thing that I did is I changed the arm design. A lot of the arm designs that you see out there are wood. Well, the advantage to a wood arm is this is not electrically conductive, so you're not worried about shocking yourself or anything. On this particular design, because we're working with low voltages and low currents, shocking really isn't as big of an issue. The other thing also is by making it out of aluminum, the arm has some flex to it, so you can see that it bends just a little. That little amount of bend in there keeps me from having to put a spring into this design. You'll notice a lot of the designs you see out there, they use a spring to keep tension on the wire. This one, the arm itself actually keeps tension on the wire, so I can get a nice feel to it. As far as get a bigger bench. All right. Let's see what else. Turn this, and you can't see it that way. All right, there we go. Okay. On the electrical side, we've got a hardware connector. This is an N-type connector from Radio Shack. Cost me like $2. You can use really any kind of connector you want. This one and the 1/4-inch headphone connectors are probably going to be your two most popular for power supplies you'll find out there. This one is just, a standard 12-volt wall wart power supply that I've got, and most of those are going to be in size, so getting one of these connectors makes it so much easier. If I ever decide to go to a different style power supply, I can always get a fitting for this type of connector. For the switch, I went with a nice big switch. Some people will use toggles. I actually like these a little bit better than toggles, mainly because they're you've got a little more area and they don't tend to break off as much. I've broken enough toggles. I've had enough toggles bend and crack that I don't really like dealing with it. The other thing that's nice on this one is, and I'm going to see if I can get that close enough so you guys can see it. You'll see it when I turn it on. There's a little LED in this one, so you actually have your power. You have your power indicator built into the switch. That's a nice thing to have because you're going to be turning the thing on and off a lot, and it's so much easier when you know that it's off. The wiring for it, though, is really straightforward. I've got power comes in here, goes up to my switch. From there goes one lead goes to the top arm. The other one goes down this wire. And what I did down here at the bottom, I put a little eyelet screw. Let's see if we can tilt that so you can see it. A little eyelet screw that my wire attaches to, my nichrome wire. So you thread your nichrome wire through, and you're all set. I also added on this one, and you can see them down here at the bottom. There's a little, I put it on 4 feet, and there's a little bit of gap for those feet. What that allows me to do is, say I want to do something that's a long, straight piece. I can actually take, like a ruler or what have you, grab you on trusty clamp, and I've got enough space that I can actually clamp that, if I can find another clamp. There we go. I can clamp that on there, and the thing still fit fairly level. Now, the problem with this one is I picked too big of a clamp for this end, but that's okay. But then I could set my spacing across here, so then when I ran my foam through, I know that that piece is going to be that distance every time. Comes in really handy if you're, like I said, I've got some jersey barriers that I'm going to be making, and I want to run a whole bunch of them through, and I want them all the same side. If you're holding it by hand, they're going to be off slightly. This way I know that as I push the piece through, they're all going to come through the same size. Okay, get that out of the way. Other thing that I did differently on this one is because this is an aluminum arm, I added a wing nut at the back. What this wing nut allows me to do is it allows me to tilt the table. I can get this table pretty far tilted so that the angle down here at the bottom where I run it through is the angle of the piece that I'm going to get. So I can actually cut angled pieces on this really easy, really repeatable. It's real nice if you're doing hills. Like say for example, you're doing stepped hills and you want all of them to have a 45-degree step on them. You can run them through, you take your piece and you literally just run it through and you know that that cut's going to be the same every time. When you want to straighten it back out, you just loosen up the bolt a little, straighten it back out, and you're all set to cut. So let's show you one last thing that I did also. There's a lot of times that you need to do curves or circles. Circles are always a pain in the butt. So what I did is I actually took just a piece of hardboard and a little squaring block and a nail, and what I made was a circle cutter. You put your block on the end of it. Let's see, how do we want to do this one? There we go. You put your block on the end, and as you turn the block, it's going to cut a complete circle for that piece. So by having this adjustable, because it squares up to the edge, I can stick my clamp on it. Put that, say for example, right there. And then I just spin my piece and I get a nice perfect circular piece. In fact, that's how I did this piece. So I've got a piece that's fairly well rounded. Now out of this white foam, it's a little bit more sensitive to heat. So you're not going to get as good of a cut, but when you go to the blue stuff or the pink stuff, you get a really, really clean cut. So we're going to go ahead and plug this one in and turn it on and we'll show you some sample cuts. So we'll start off with, let's see, why not? Start with just a plain block. I got a piece that I cut earlier, but see now we're just playing around with it. We'll turn her on and give it a few seconds for the wire to heat up. And simple, basic cuts. So I can do straight cuts. If I wanted to do something more intricate, say for example I wanted to do some little loops, you can. So I've got those nice little things on it. Go ahead and turn that off. If I wanted to tilt this, I'm going to tilt this way this time. So say I wanted to do an angled cut, go ahead and turn her on. Watch where you put your fingers. And there I've got a nice angled piece. And I can do anything I wanted with it. So we'll get some of all these extras out of the way. And we'll straighten her back up and we'll eyeball it to see if she's straight. And we'll go ahead and get ready to cut some circles. So I'm going to put this about right there. And we'll clamp it in. It's going to be a fairly small circle, so we'll see how this one goes. Here we go. And we've got a pretty decent circle. I didn't square that one up, so I've got a flat spot on it, but you get the idea. So that's really it. Play around with this some more, and I don't know, let's do something. Let's try this with a little tilt to it this time. Let's see what we end up with. It does get kind of fun after a while. So we'll fire that one on. And we'll do a little cone shape. So yeah, works out really, really well. You can do some pretty neat stuff with it. So that's it for this time. Next time we'll hopefully have the ring light thing going. So until then, it's me signing off. Take it easy, guys.